Welcome. Last week we learned about the overall goals and skills that you're going to learn in this 6-week training. Today we're going to be learning about the first two skills set that you'll use in our first coaching session and that you'll probably use constantly throughout your interactions with your child. They are focus on your child and adjust your communication. These strategies are really the foundation of the training. We hope that you followed your practice plan and focused on setting up your home for success. During your coaching session, we can talk more about what went well and problem solve and challenge any challenges that came up. Today, we're going to discuss focus on your child and two techniques that you can use to do this, which are follow your child's lead and imitate your child. Next, we're going to talk about adjusting your communication and two techniques that you can use to do this, which are use animation and model and expand communication. For each technique, we will discuss what skills it can teach and talk about how to use them and watch some video samples. Then during your coaching session, we're going to help you practice each of these skills. We're going to start with the first strategy, focus on your child. This strategy set is a starting place for building an interaction with your child. It gives you and your child a fun way to play together, and it's going to help you and your child engage, or it's going to help your child engage with you and get ready to learn. We're going to learn 4 techniques that you can use to focus on your child. Use a picture schedule to structure the interaction if needed. Remain face-to-face with your child. Imitate your child, and respond to your child. These techniques involve joining your child in a fun way during play. The techniques you're going to use will depend on the activity you're doing and the materials that you have available. You can use these visuals provided to you at the beginning of the training, as well as the lesson plans, to follow and structure the play interaction. You can use this strategy set, that is, focus on your child, throughout your interaction with your child. You will always begin an interaction by focusing on your child and then waiting and watching for your child's response. At this point in the program, your child can respond in any way by using eye contact, sharing emotions, watching you, or imitating what you're doing, using gestures such as reaching or pushing or pointing, making sounds, or using language. You will then respond to these actions in a logical way. This is going to teach your child that his or her behaviors carries meaning and gets a response from you. The goal is not to use all of these techniques at the same time, but to pick the ones that work best for you and for your child within the activity that you're doing. You will learn to prompt for new skills in other lessons and later in this training. But for now, focus on the skills that your child is already doing, or the skills that he has. Many children with social communication challenges have difficulty engaging or interacting with others. We provided you with visuals to incorporate in a play schedule. Visual schedules will allow you to follow your child's lead. What that means is that you will follow your child's ideas of what to do or play with. The visual schedule will have, I would say, up to 5 visuals of different play activities that your child can choose to play with. This provides your child with visual information of the options he has. It will also allow your child to show you what he's interested in, what is interesting to him, or what he's interested in playing with. Your child will have fun and be more likely to interact with you. So once your child selects an activity or toy to play with, you'll use this technique of following your child's lead to increase your child's engagement and the length of time you can play together. It may also help your child initiate or start an interaction with you. You can use follow your child's lead during activities in which it is okay for your child to direct the interaction. These are going to include play, trips to the park, walks in the neighborhood, and even during bath time if your child enjoys the tub. The first step is to stay face-to-face with your child and be at your child's eye level. This way you can become part of your child's play. Notice where he or she is looking and respond to your child, to how your child's feeling. This will also make it easier for your child to make eye contact and see your facial expressions and what you're doing. If your child is very active and moves around a lot, move with him or her so that you can remain face to face as much as possible. You can also hold objects to your child, objects closer to your eyesight, of things that he's interested in. So in other words, put them like near your face or your eyes, and that's going to encourage your child to look at you. If being face to face is hard for your child, try looking into a mirror together. That has been done. Let your child choose what to do and let his or her interests lead the activity. This means letting your child decide how to play, even if it seems unusual, such as lining up toys or spinning toys or opening and closing a door. Your child is more likely to engage with you if your child is having fun. Later during this training, we're going to talk about how we can model or teach another way of doing an activity or playing with a toy. Once you see what and how your child wants to play, join in the play by becoming a needed part of it. This shows your child that you're interested in what he or she is doing. For example, if your child is building a tower, give your child the blocks or take turns putting a block on the tower. Some children respond better to sensory play or active play. If this is the case, join your child in sensory exploration. For example, if your child likes to spin or, if they like to spin with him or her, or if they like to spin on a chair, do the same thing on another chair. If your child likes to touch textures, give him or her dried beans or rice to feel or pasta. For now, avoid asking questions and giving directions because this is going to take away the lead from your child. Instead, comment on your child's play to show your interest in what your child's doing. Later in the program, like I mentioned, you're going to learn how to ask questions and give instructions to teach new skills. Some children may need to disengage from the interaction briefly in order to what we call self-regulate or calm down. Be sensitive to your child's emotional state, but be persistent in interacting with your child. If your child turns or moves away, acknowledge how he or she's feeling by labeling it, but don't leave. Give your child a moment to re-engage with you. If this doesn't happen, follow your child's lead and engage your child again. Your child will learn to have fun with you if you're persistent. If your child protests, try joining the play in a different way. For example, if your child starts to fuss when you touch his or her toy, get a different toy of the same type and make a comment, such as my train is driving fast. This is why it is important to have two of the same toy. You get to determine which behaviors are okay for your child, and set limits as necessary. If your child engages in an unsafe or destructive behavior, don't let it continue. Make it clear to him or her that this behavior is not okay by stating this in a firm but calm voice and removing the toys or objects that are causing a problem. Be consistent with your rules and consequences. Once you follow your child's lead, wait and watch for signs that your child's engaging with you. These could include looking at you, gesturing, vocalizing, or moving away from the activity. Any of these actions may be how your child communicates when you're not helping him or her. So respond to any and all of your child's action in a logical way. So remember the acronym GRASP. So anytime your child gives you a toy or shows you something, this is going to teach your child that these behaviors have meaning and can be used to communicate with others. For example, if your child looks at or reaches towards a toy, you hand it to him or her, and you can say you want and say the toy. If your child looks at you after you tickle him or her, do it again and say, oh, you want tickles. Sometimes you may need to guess what your child wants. And it happens quite often sometimes. So use clues from the environment and your child's behavior to help you figure out what he or she wants. Here's an example of a mom using follow your child's lead to increase her son's engagement. Johnny is playing with blocks and he's lining them up. His mom follows his lead by moving face to face, and she joins his play by handing him a block. She then waits and watches to see how Johnny responds. Johnny responds by looking at the block. His mom responds to this action by giving Johnny the block and watching him place it in the line. Now we're going to watch some video examples of parents using follow your child's lead to help their child engage with them during the play. I want you to watch for how the parent gets face to face and joins the child's play. Then how they wait for the child to respond and then respond to the child's action in a logical way.
Them off. Blocks, yes, shake them off.
And that's great. Now you're being part of the activity.
Blocks. Blocks.
That's great.
Shake, 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 shake. Stack. 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 Calvin Stern. Stack. Stack.
So at this point, he's not interested in that, but he's going to go do this. So follow him to this.
Okay.
And now you can help maybe give him one block to put in, because he wants to put it in. So maybe you can hand him one. There you go. So you're the one that's giving him the ones to put in.
In. In. In. In. In.
Excellent.
In. Oh. In.
Now this time, start taking a turn. So you put the next one in when he puts one in.
Mama Stern. Calvin Stern. Mama Stern. Calvin Stern. All done. Ready? Set. Down.
Excellent.
So in this clip, you saw a child who's pre-verbal. So the mother follows her child's lead while he's playing with the blocks. Notice how she gets down on his level, stays face to face, and follows his lead to the block. At first, she tries to direct his play by getting him to stack the blocks. He knocks down the tower, but then loses interest in the interaction and he moves away. Then she follows him and lets him lead the play. She joins him by handing him the blocks one at a time when he reaches over for them. Notice how she makes comments but does not ask questions or give directions. Now he stays in the interaction, and eventually she is able to take turns with him, creating a back and forth interaction, which is a great form of engagement. This is the starting point of the program, making sure that the child is engaged and is motivated. Now let's watch the second one.
And push, snap.
Yeah.
Okay. Pull.
There we
And
go.
mine is over. Okay.
Yeah, it's raining.
It's raining. Okay, I need an umbrella. Sorry. Well, that's great. It's raining. Open the umbrella. I'm getting all wet. I'm getting all wet. Are you opening? Okay. You push up. Let's put Winnie the Pooh down and push up. Push, push, push.
Okay, so this second clip is a child who uses full sentences. The mother follows her child's lead while he's playing with the umbrella. Notice how she gets down on his level, stays face to face, and follows his lead with the umbrella. She joins in her son's play with her own umbrella and then joins him with his umbrella by pretending that she needs to share it. She makes comments like, "It's raining, I need an umbrella, I'm getting all wet," centering around her son's play. She waits and watches to see how he responds, either with eye contact, gesture, language, and she responds to these behaviors by making comments or helping him when he needs assistance, like opening the umbrella.
Come off.
Oops. Okay, so some of the things that you can try at home. If your child moves from one thing to the next, you're going to follow him or her to the new activity and try to join the play. You're going to create a smaller environment. So some people choose a small area in the house to play and interact with their child, where there's a limit on access to toys or other objects in the environment. If your child doesn't seem interested in the toys, be creative. Sometimes children often enjoy household items like pots and pans or brooms or brushes or laundry baskets. Um, Also, you can have toys available that your child enjoys. Choose toys that allow you to join in your child's play, such as musical instruments, squishy balls, and cars. If your child plays with toys in an unusual way, follow his lead and join him or her in play as long as it is okay with your rules about what is okay. Another way that you can focus on your child, have fun and play together, is to imitate your child. This means copying your child's movements, gestures, play actions, sounds, and words. You can use this technique to increase your child's engagement with you and the length of time you can play together. Many children really enjoy being imitated and will use more vocalizations and try different play actions to see if you're going to imitate them. Imitating your child's behavior can also help your child realize that his or her behaviors affect how you act. Your child may look at you or change some actions when you use imitate your child to see if you can copy him or her. Imitate your child is easiest when you have two of the same or similar items to play with, or when your child is not playing with toys. Let's see how you can do this. You can imitate your child's gestures, facial expressions, and body movements to teach him or her that these nonverbal behaviors are meaningful and can affect how you act. These movements do not need to be purposeful. For example, you can imitate dropping a toy, looking around the room, or lying down. Exaggerate your imitation of these behaviors to help him notice that you're copying him. Imitating gestures and body movements is especially helpful when your child is not engaged with a toy. You can also imitate your child's sounds and words to capture your child's attention and show that his or her vocalizations are meaningful. If your child does not use words yet, imitate any sound your child makes, matching the emotion and the sounds themselves. If your child is using words or sentences, then only imitate language that is related to what you're doing together. Finally, you can imitate your child's play with toys or other objects as another way to join the play. It may also encourage your child to use new or different play actions to see if you copy him or her. This technique works best when you have two of the same similar objects, like I mentioned, because you can imitate your child's play at the same time he or she is playing. This can increase his awareness that you're imitating him or her. Imitating your child can increase the behaviors that you're imitating. So don't imitate behaviors that you're trying to decrease, such as throwing objects or aggressive behaviors. Instead, You can imitate the action while showing your child a more appropriate way to play, such as throwing a softball if your child is throwing a truck. You can also match your child's emotions instead of the action. For example, if your child's engaging in hand clapping to show excitement, imitate the excitement by maybe just clapping your hands. After you imitate your child, wait and watch for your child's response. Just as in follow your child's lead. Look for eye contact, shifts in body posture, gestures, vocalizations, words, or sentences. Respond to any of these behaviors in a logical way. This slide shows an example of a dad using imitate your child to increase his son's engagement. So Michael is playing with a car by rolling it back and forth. His dad moves face to face, gets another car, and rolls it back and forth in front of Michael. He then waits and watches to see how Michael responds. Michael responds by just looking at his dad. His dad responds to his action by smiling and continuing to roll the car back and forth. I would even add roll the car, like having the dad say that. So here's a clip to watch an example of a parent using imitate your child to help her child engage with her during the play activity. Watch for how mom gets face to face and imitates her daughter's actions. She waits and watch for the child for her to respond and respond to her actions in a logical way.
Chicks.
Cheeks? Hair. You would help me?
Yours.
Thank you, Ryan. Oh, amazing eyes. Let me see. Hair. Hair. Headband.
Frog.
You mean like this?
Headband.
Mm-hmm.
Eyes.
Eyes.
Nose.
Nose.
Mouth.
Mouth.
Neck.
Neck.
Shoulder.
Shoulder.
Head.
Hands.
Head.
Hands.
So as you can see in this video clip, the parent gets face to face and imitates the child's actions. She waits and watches the child, her daughter, to respond, and responds to her actions in a logical way. She imitates her during the drawing activity. The girl draws the face and labels what she's doing, and the mom responds by imitating her daughter's action and language, and then waiting after each imitation to see what she does next. So the daughter responds by watching her mother's actions and eventually begins to direct the mother on what to draw. Notice how the mom follows a three-step sequence of focusing on her child, waiting for her child to respond, and then responding to her daughter's actions in a logical way. So some of the things you can try at home. If your child is playing with musical instruments, imitate playing the instruments if you have similar instruments. If your child's playing with art materials, get the same materials and sit face to face and imitate what she or he is doing and wait to see how he responds. If your child's not interested in toys, put out toys that can be played with in many different ways, such as stacking cups or blocks or cars or toy food or Play-Doh. Wait and see what he does with these items and imitate him or her. Another way you can focus on your child, have fun and play together, is to respond to your child's grasp behaviors in a logical way. This teaches him that these behaviors have meaning and can be used to communicate with others. So putting a meaning to their giving, their reaching, their attending, their showing, and their pointing. You can use this technique to increase your child's engagement with you by reinforcing their actions. But, and you know, they understand that their action has a meaning, and so children enjoy being understood and will use more of the grasp behaviors to interact with you. Responding to these behaviors can also help your child realize that his or her behaviors affect how you act and will help him or her use more gestures and vocalizations. Some of the ways that you can respond to your child's grasp behaviors. You can, you know, by the way, you know, these behaviors can be verbal and nonverbal. So as you're gonna do, you're gonna treat them as if your child is telling you something with these behaviors. For example, if he puts your hand on a doorknob, respond by opening the door. You can also say the word open. If your child protests, this is a form of communication. Respond to it appropriately. Label his nonverbal behaviors. For example, if he's crying, you can say, "You're sad." If he reaches for a cracker, you point to it and say the word cracker. And obviously you give it to them, to your child, if he's requesting it. Something you can do at home, if your child looks at you, you can give your child the object you're holding. Or if he looks at you and you're not sure that he's trying to request for you to give him something, you can just say hello. If your child reaches towards an item, you can give your child the item while saying, "You want the," and then you say the name of the item. If your child gives you something, you can say, "You're giving me the ball," or "It's my turn," or "You need help opening this." So try and answer in a logical way. Now we're gonna talk about the second strategy set, which is adjust your communication. This strategy set also is going to encourage social engagement, and it's going to help your child understand and use verbal and nonverbal communication. So we're going to learn two techniques for adjusting your communication. One is using animation, which involves adjusting your nonverbal communication, such as gestures, facial expressions, and even tone of voice, to make the interaction fun and help your child understand these more subtle aspects of communication. Model and expand communication is the second technique, and it involves adjusting your verbal language to help your child understand you, what you're saying, and learn new ways to communicate. The visual that is on the slide and that I provided to you at the intake has talk and simple language included to remind you that you should reflect what the child says. In other words, repeat using simple language and model the correct use of the word if you need to. We always strive to teach more ways to use words in a sentence. So this is why we added imitate and expand. So this means that if your child says car or uses one-word sentences, you can reflect back by adding an adjective or another word, blue car, as a way to add to the interaction. You will use both focus on your child and adjust your communication throughout your interaction with your child. You will adjust your communication as you focus on your child. So sort of using them at the same time. You're going to continue to wait for your child to respond and respond to your child's actions in a logical way. In addition, you're going to expand on your child's response. Let's talk about animation. So children with social communication challenges often have difficulty recognizing and making sense of nonverbal communication like gestures, facial expressions, and even tone of voice. So by using animation, you're adding more or less energy to these nonverbal aspects of communication. And this is going to make the interaction more fun and can make these often subtle aspects of communication stand out. You can use this technique to increase your child's ability to share enjoyment with you and to initiate, as well as to increase your child's understanding of nonverbal communication, such as gestures, facial expressions, and body posture. You can combine use animation with the other techniques to highlight what you're doing. Let's look at how to engage in using animation with your child. So you're going to show your child that you're excited about the activity by using big gestures, facial expressions, and words, even if what your child's doing seems boring or repetitive to you. The more you share enjoyment with your child, the more likely your child will be to begin sharing enjoyment with you through either eye contact or vocalizations and even facial expressions. Use big gestures to when communicating with your child, to help your child pay attention to the nonverbal aspects of communication and to make your meaning clear. For example, wave, point, or shrug your shoulders in an exaggerated way. If your child becomes too wound up or upset, slow down your movements and make them smaller. Exaggerate your facial expressions to help your child pay attention to them and learn what they mean. Use gestures to help your child notice your facial expressions. For example, point to the corners of your mouth when you frown to show that you're sad. Exaggerate the speed, the tone, and volume of your speech to help your child understand how the changes in vocal quality change the meaning of what you're saying. You can also exaggerate inflection differences that change the meaning of a sentence from a question to a comment, or that indicate different emotions. Use attention-getting words such as wow, ready, and here we go while you're joining your child's play. This can cue your child that you have something to share and can encourage a child to look at you. If your child uses any similar words or sounds, react in an exaggerated way to show that the words are meaningful and that you understand what the child's telling you. Adjust your animation to help your child stay regulated in a balanced state of arousal. Regulated means that you want your child to be in a balanced state of arousal, neither too up or too down. If your child is becoming quiet, withdrawn, or sleepy while playing with you, your child may be under-aroused. In this case, you're gonna use more animation to help your child engage with you. On the other hand, if your child becomes too revved up, when you use a lot of animation, use less animation to help your child calm down. You can also slow down your speech and lower your voice. I've had families that raise their voice or tone of voice when to an excited way when they're playing with their child, but they don't notice that the child gets really revved up. So I've instructed them to lower their voice and just try and lower the voice to see if the child also calms down a little bit. Add an expectant look and exaggerated gestures when you wait for your child to respond. Using these cues can increase your child's awareness that you're expecting a response. Be sure to respond to your child's behavior in a logical way. This slide shows an example of a mom using animation to increase her daughter's engagement and understanding of nonverbal communication. So Jessica's stacking blocks, and her mother sits face to face and joins her play by adding a block to the tower. Her mom then exaggerates her gestures and facial expressions to show excitement and describes the size of the tower. Like she says, so big. She then waits with anticipation to see how Jessica responds. And Jessica responds by looking at her mom and smiling. So her mom responds to Jessica with a smile and continues to use big gestures as she plays. This is keeping the engagement and the interaction going. Now we're going to watch an example of a parent using animation to help her son engage and understand the use of nonverbal communication. I want you to watch how she exaggerates her nonverbal communication. She waits with anticipation and then responds to her son's actions in a logical way.
Where's Calvin? Peekaboo. Where's Calvin? Yeah, that was great. And that was great just waiting him out. And he gave you some nice sounds for that.
Hand stuck. Hand stuck. Oh no. Stuck. Oh, oh. Open. Hand out.
Okay, so the mother uses animation as she gets her son to play with a collapsible ball. She's sitting face to face and she uses big facial expressions and exaggerates her vocal quality and uses attention-getting sound effects to encourage her child to look at her face. Her child responds with increased attention and eye contact as well as positive affect. After establishing a routine around opening and closing the ball, the mother then waits with anticipation before opening the ball again. So her son responds by looking, gesturing, and reaching for the ball, and eventually vocalizing after several turns. So some of the things that you can do at home by incorporating animation, if your child is singing or listening to you sing, sing several lines and then pause with an expectant look or a gesture to see whether your child gives you any indication that you should continue, or if the child can say the word, they can fill in the blank. Choose a song with gestures and movements like Itsy Bitsy Spider, Wheels on the Bus. There's tons of different children's songs that use animation. If you're playing peekaboo or your child's playing peekaboo, hide your face in a scarf and wait to see if your child does something to take the scarf off. If he does, you say peekaboo. If your child's playing tickle, tickle your child and then use big gestures to indicate that you are going to tickle him again. Wait with an expectant look and see what your child does to indicate that he wants more tickles. Some children have difficulty understanding language when we use too many words or speak too quickly. By changing the way you speak, you can help your child understand what you say and learn new communication skills. Modeling involves talking about what your child is doing, seeing and learning, and hearing, sorry. Expanding involves adding language or gestures to your child's communication. So this particular technique can help your child learn new gestures, words, and sentences, and can also expand the reasons why your child communicates. You can use this technique during any activity. So let's discuss how you can use model and expand communication. Talk about the things your child's paying attention to by commenting on or labeling or describing what your child sees, hears, or does as it happens, almost as if you were a sports commentator. This includes what you are doing when your child's watching, or you can even describe what you're doing. So model how language can be used for a variety of reasons, such as commenting, gaining attention, requesting, protesting, or gaining information. Do not comment on every action your child does, because that may be too much information. When you talk to your child, use simple language to make it easier for your child to understand. So model communication skills that are only slightly more complex, than how your child already communicates. For example, if your child uses mostly gestures, model gestures, and a single word. Or like I mentioned earlier, if your child says car, you may want to add blue car, an additional word. The table on the slide suggests a simple language you can model based on the skills that your child has. So you're going to use gestures and visual cues together with your words to help your child understand your meaning. For example, tap on the door and say the word door, or open as you open the door. This is particularly important for children who are not yet using language because it gives additional information and a model of another way to communicate. Children with social communication challenges often require extra time to process information. So it's important that you speak slowly while exaggerating your gestures to make it easier for your child to understand your communication. Emphasize important words in a sentence to draw your child's attention to them. You can also add a gesture when you say important words to emphasize the word and its meaning. For example, you can say, "You have a big ball," while making your arms into a big circle. Children learn better when they hear something many times. So model gestures, words, or language concepts that you would like your child to use multiple times each day. You can use the same word, phrase, or gesture repetitively while playing with your child. For example, down it goes, or repeat specific important words such as the car is rolling, rolling fast. Avoid filling up the space with questions that don't really require an answer, such as, "Are you being silly?" Also, avoid questions that simply test your child's knowledge, such as, "What color is the block?" These questions do not help your child use back and forth communication. Instead, it's just make comment and labels, and make comments and label objects and actions. So the first table on the slide has more examples of how you can rephrase questions into comments. After your child responds, expand on this communication by repeating your child's speech and adding new words or appropriate grammar. By adding words, you revise and complete your child's speech without directly correcting it. At the same time, you respond to your child's communication in a logical way. The second table on this slide has some examples of how you can expand your child's communication. This slide shows an example of a mom using model and expand communication to improve her son's vocabulary. Mom is helping Jimmy get dressed. She focuses on her child by moving face to face and using simple language to label Jimmy's clothes as she puts them on. She says the word shirt and then waits to see what he does. Jimmy responds by imitating the word shirt. His mom responds to him by putting his shirt on. And then she expands his communication by saying shirt on. So we're going to watch some examples of parents using model and expand communication to help their children understand and use verbal communication. I want you to watch how they use simple language to talk about the child, what the child's doing, hearing, or seeing. They wait for the child to respond, and then they expand on the child's communication while responding in a logical way.
Glasses. 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 Mama's glasses. Off. On. Glasses on. Calvin's glasses. Yes. Calvin's glasses.
That's great turn taking back and forth.
Mama's glasses. Achoo! Achoo! Mama's glasses on.
So as you can see, she models and she expands the communication while she and her son play with the sunglasses. She kept saying glasses, sunglasses. She's following his lead. She stays face to face and uses animation. So he's using gestures and word approximations to communicate with a mom. So she uses simple and repetitive language, like I mentioned, glasses, sunglasses, to talk about the focus of interest. And he responds with increased attention, eye contact, and he's even smiling and vocalizing. At one point, he says, ga, ga, and she expands and says, ga, ga, glasses. Let's watch the second one.
Green peas.
Green pea.
Eat the peas.
Eat the peas. Daddy eats. Daddy eats. Daddy eats peas. Yellow corn.
Pea.
Peas.
That's not giving him what he asked for.
Pea.
Num 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 num.
Pea.
Peas. Yes. Corn. Take a bite. Gabe eats the corn. All done. Daddy eats the corn. Daddy eats the corn.
Oops. So in the second clip, the father models the language for his son while they are playing with toy food. He stays face to face. He uses animation along with like repetitive, simple language to describe the toys and what he's doing and what his son's doing. His son is using single words to communicate. So the father models mostly the single words like peas or corn, and simple phrases like eat the peas or daddy eats the peas. So his son responds by imitating his father's language and using some words spontaneously. So the father responds to his communication as meaningful by giving him the peas when his son says the word peace. So what did you notice during that interaction? How did the parents simplify his or her or their language? How did the child respond? And how did the parent expand the child's communication? So some of the things that you can try at home is if your child is reading a book, point to the pictures and label the objects and actions, the locations, the emotions. Describe the pictures and say what you see, and you can give an opinion about the picture. Of course, all of these skills we can practice during the coaching sessions. So for next steps, I want you to practice daily, use the practice plan to make notes. And I want you to try and practice every day. And we'll talk more about any questions, and we'll practice in the coaching session. So what I want you to do for the practice plan is I want you to make sure that you pick the strategy set that you'll work on from focus on your child and adjust your communication. Remember, you don't have to practice all of them. You can just focus on one specific one as you get comfortable with the skills. And I want you to refer to the visuals as a guide. Once you pick your skill or the skill that you're going to practice at home, you can even practice different ways each day. I want you to write them down on your planning sheet or your practice plan under where it says goal. I want you to be specific about the activity and what you do in each step, and we'll go over the practice plan in our coaching session. Until then, see you next time.